Hey gamers, what is going on? This is Fire Chicken Review. Thanks for tuning in. And I want to go over the Keyforge Grim Reminders is going to be on Gamefound. So hopefully I'm not too quiet here. Just have my little one sleeping in the other room. But this was an important one that I wanted to cover here. And I wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on Ghost Galaxy choosing to do crowdfunding for this campaign for the next set of Keyforge and potentially for many more sets in the future. I think this is a mixed bag within the community because they have different thoughts on this. Some people are just happy to see that Keyforge will be continuing and they're looking forward to playing with some competitive players and casual players alike being a little bit frustrated that their local game stores are basically being removed or delayed from the picture. And there's a lot of questions in between. So let's get right into it. This is the Keyforge Grim Reminders page here. They go into a lot of details, and I'll have a link so that you can look at it yourselves. And they say what the new set's going to be. And then they go right into why crowdfunding. And obviously, the reason why this is that they anticipated that a lot of Keyforge core players are wondering why go crowdfunding it again. There was many of us, including myself, that were expecting if the first campaign did as well as it did, that they would have the initial funds to set up the game, and they talk about that in here, and to be able to go a retail style afterwards. Now, I'd like to put a caveat there that I do recall Christian T. Pearson and Ghost Galaxy mentioning that if it made sense, they would potentially go forward with crowdfunding campaigns in the future. But the intent was ensuring that your local game stores would be in the loop and they would have the capacity for that. And they are a smaller to middle-sized company, not the same size as Fantasy Flight Games. But you'll see here in a minute that I'm going to cover and compare them to another company that started a new game, unlike Keyforge, which is rehashing, and not rehashing, but resetting a beloved game for many of us out there, and talking about that. So they go into the detail, and there's some mixed baggage that is in here. And I apologize ahead of time. I'm going to be providing a lot more constructive criticism and hopefully not too much nagging aspects. For those that do not know, my own background is that I'm a day one player of Keyforge. I will be playing this game into the ground. I was an all-in pledge for the first Winds of Exchange here, and that's the Turner of Keys. So I spent quite a bit because I strongly believe in Keyforge, love the game, and I really want to support. And I suspect that I will also be at the highest level pledge of wherever it's on for the Grim Reminders. But that comes with the caveat that I do have a lot of concerns for this, and I recommend that you talk with your wallet and leave comments within the actual campaign, which you can leave up here in the comment section, even if you don't back, which is a beauty of Gamefound, because there is some concerns that you should have. And I'm not coming at this lightly either. Like I said, day one player, all in for the first one, probably all in for this. I was a noted play tester within Winds of Exchange, and I also got to preview a card. So I did have a working relationship with Ghost Galaxy and be able to preview a card for the first one. And hopefully, my constructive criticism for this campaign doesn't hamper anything, but I can only speak the truth in the aspects of here. And one of the first things that comes to me here is English language only. If only I could speak English. But this is a concern in the fact that what they're saying is that there was issues with the previous campaign. It was delayed because of translating Keyforge into other languages. So instead of taking a different route, because it's challenging, let's not lie, they're choosing to focus on English, and then at retail, that's when you can get other language decks. Now, I'm concerned about that because it's putting a factor into the international backers. For those that do not know, international backers are still receiving their pledges. There's even a article about it. Well, let me go to it here. There's even an article that they just put an update about the shipping status that you can see here, and it says the expected final delivery. So people should be getting their final delivery from at least what Ghost Galaxy is saying within the next month. So if that's true, then there's no issues going ahead with the campaign. Now, what would give a little bit more of a trust factor is that they should have potentially postponed it doing the campaign into October or into they're at the 95 percentage. 80% is what they say they're at, and that's fine. They talk about how North America represents 8% of the pledges. That is fine in nature, but it gives a bad feeling aspect to international. And when I say international, I mean those outside of US and Canada, in the aspect that here's a new campaign going up, but we haven't received our pledges yet. On top of that aspect is that I'll talk about a little bit more later, but at the same time talking about now is that retailers have only really just started to get Winds of Exchange, and we're talking about that Winds of Exchange will be at retail stores for about a month to a month and a half, really, excluding like North America, again, getting it a little bit earlier than that. So people will now be choosing with their pockets. Do they want to get Winds of Exchange at their local game store, or will they be backing the campaign? You could do both, but if you're backing at levels like I did for the first one of the all-in, that's a significant amount of money. It may be challenging to say, hey, I'm going to try to afford both. And of course, you should back within reason or buy within reason. Whether that's one deck, a display, 6 displays like myself, always back within reason and whatever you can support, right? Don't go over your own budget. But that is a valid concern. So that's why they're talking about fulfillment. And that is common for many campaigns, not just for Keyforge, that a lot of backers would like to see the previous campaign basically near complete. Ghost Galaxy feels that 80% and wrapping up within the next month, if they're going to wrap up before the campaign, which I believe is going live around the end of September, if that's going to actually be true, I don't see a personal issue with that, but I am biased because I have already received my pledge and I'm in Canada, so I'm in that North American bubble. So I would like to hear what like international backers a view of that, and I know a lot of them that are vocal are a little bit frustrated with that, and you'll see that within the comments, right? So that's what they're talking about. So they go back to that English only. I'm not a huge fan of that. I wish it was still international, with a caveat of saying that, hey, if you would like to see your other, I say international, other language decks as well, if you would like to receive your other language decks, even if you're going to choose one, this will delay when you will receive the product. I think some backers would be fine. Not all backers, but some backers would be fine with being told that if they want other language decks, that they can receive them, but you most likely will get them at the same time that retail stores will get their product, which is a little bit of frustration. But if it means that you're going to get that additional FOMO aspect, the fear of missing out, but the additional products that came with like the key Winds of Exchange, which is like a bunch of additional little things. So you got like this plushie, some toys, and play mats and stuff like that. Some people will be willing to do that, and it's good to see so that they can get that money up front to see like how much interest is in the game. So that's my view of this. I wish that the language only wasn't English. I wish there was more, and that's not just a Keyforge thing. Again, that is various board game campaigns that I've seen. It's a tough market to do because it adds a complexity. So I do understand. Now, the simplified stretch goals, I have some issues with the simplified stretch goals that they mention here. They say due to a combination of wobbly splash that there are some surprises. Yes, it was a complex aspect that they were doing. This is going against what backers probably will want to hear. When you say simplified stretch goals, what does that mean? Do you mean that you're going to give less stretch goals? Because in fact, the stretch goals from Winds of Exchange was actually a little bit lackluster if you were backing more than one pledge. And what I mean by that was that I thought the Turner of Keys, the Breaker of Chains, or any of the pledges that you backed at, the the additional stuff that you got, um, that you would received, it was very interesting. It was that it was actually worth your time, um, if you got the stretch goal items, which were here, because it came with some nice juicy items, but that would only be allowed for one pledge. And what I mean by that, if it sounds confusing, is that if you had pledged multiple turners of keys, you didn't get three times the if you pledged three pledges, you didn't get three stretch goal pledge rewards, which is very common in most board game crowdfunding games, that they say, here's the stretch goals. It's going to come one times for each of the products that you get. So that led to some backers just backing on different accounts so that they could get the stretch goals. So I hope that when they say simplified stretch goals, that they also take into consideration, and I hope people leave in the comments that we would like to see as backers, that if I back this like with 10 times the pledges, or whatever pledge level I back it at, that I receive the equivalent of the stretch goals, because that only seems fair. But at the same time, I know that on my side, I wouldn't want to have a simplified stretch goal say, hey, instead of getting like a personalized deck, which I think is very well received, and I assume and can only hope that that's still going to go on, that they will allow it so that it depends on the pledge level, and that's how much you would get. And if you do multiple, that they will consider that factor. Um, and then they go into retail pledges. This is a good thing, because retailers do deserve to have the opportunity to be able to back straight from the campaign. The downside of this, though, is that what does this actually mean? So they talk about it in here, but what does this actually mean that for the retail pledges? So if they back retail pledge, does that mean that the stores are going to get the product and support their local players, but then will they still go to their distributor a little bit later on? This is a little bit confusing in the aspect that, what does that mean for the retailer when they say, hey, I backed a bunch of stuff on here. I hope that whatever agreement that Ghost Galaxy and the distributor for most of the games out here, I believe it's usually through Asmodee, but it depends on the location, that it doesn't end up hurting the local game stores. And I also hope that there isn't any conflict or any issues, because I have concerns with this, is that those who pledge, the retailers that pledge on here, that means that they should be allowed to sell their product just as soon as the backers would receive their product, in which most likely means that they would get it before the regular street date, which is an oddity, because unlike a game like Sorcery Contested Realm here on Kickstarter, they allowed retailers to back this product, but this product was a CCG game, which was an alpha set, which was a different version of the card game that most retailers would get, versus what, as far as I would be led to believe, the retail pledge here for Grim Reminders will have that extra swag, but in all intents and purposes, the actual product, and when I say product, I mean the decks, should be pretty much the same that you would get in retail, which means that stores that do get this have an advantage against other stores potentially, if it means they can beat the street date, and like whatever the date is that's allowed to like start to sell the product that is normally within that model. But Ghost Galaxy might say, hey, we're doing a hybrid model. We don't care about street dates anymore, which would just kind of get messy. So let me know in the comments what you think about that. Am I rambling a bit too much on that? And that other concern is that, hey, retailers get some product. Does it sit on the shelf? Are they able to sell it? And yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit of an oddity. I have seen retail pledges for board game campaigns, but because this is a card game, I categorize it in a slightly different category, in the fact that something has to be special about it for retailers to be able to get this level. And if you're a retailer and you're saying, hey, um, so most of the people are going to be getting it early. Again, for myself, when I got my Turner of Keys, I got 6 displays. Like this bad boy came with a lot of stuff. Like this is quite a few. I had 72 decks that I got for Winds of Exchange, right? So what is my incentive afterwards, even if I'm a competitive player, when I normally only get like 4 displays, so like 48 decks? Um, what's my incentive to buy from my local store afterwards? I probably will be a little bit burnt out, and I already received the product, already been playing it for a while. So the retail stores that afterwards, when it hits the market, I'm most likely not supporting them as much. And even at whatever pledge level most people are at, they're probably not supporting their local game stores, which is a concern. So I would like to hear Ghost Galaxy and how they would are going to address that concern. They talk about shipping here. They talk about campaign to reward delivery. That's all standard stuff. Yeah, there's issues with that. That comes up. I mean, the sorcery game that I talked about, even though this one did well, and you saw that I also backed this at a high pledge, right? They made quite a bit of money. They also had delays for their shipping, so that's not an issue. If you look at the recent Lorcana game, they have been having issues with like getting the product out for like pre-release, blah blah blah. This happens in card games, so not as much of an issue. My issue is more with what's the state of Keyforge, what's going on for retailers. Do retailers feel cut out? Do players feel that retailers are being cut out? Are players also wanting to have it more crowdfunding? And that brings into a topic that I will probably cover in another video, is that there's a lot of changes that Ghost Galaxy is making. A lot they are changing and doing for the better, and by no means are they, you know, they've been making mistakes here and there. And like if I go to some of the old news, like for example, the tournament format changes, yeah, there's been some hurdles. The format previously for competitive play, as a side note, like there's a lot of competitive players that were looking at it and say, I'm not sure, including myself. I said that I wouldn't play in the previous two and out format that they had because I had a bad experience with it. So it's good that they decided to change it, and that's going well. So they are willing to listen, and I recommend you check out this article if you're a competitive player and haven't already seen this. And the first one of this tournament apparently did really well. It looked like it did well as well. So excited for that. But I think there's just a lot of growing pains that the company is going through that could potentially be avoided if they listen to the backers and what players want. We also have the fact that if I was to go back the tournament formats that we have the new Alliance. It's just Alliance and Archon is the main two events for tournament play, right? So locally it might be different, but a lot of players didn't want to see Alliance, and so far Alliance has been low turnout. The few tournaments that have shown up, only one has been over like 30 people, and two of the three that have gone on so far on the competitive side have been under 20. Still early. Time will tell, but a lot of fan favorites of just standard sealed has gone away. So it's tough for backers because when they originally backed Winds of Exchange, we didn't realize that Alliance was going to be a format. We thought Sealed would still be in it. We didn't realize there was going to be so many changes to Keyforge. So if you go through the comments, you're going to see that there's a few disgruntled backers. Now, is that a few minority, or is that actually a vocal group that represents a larger group? It's hard to say. I think where Keyforge is currently heading is more to a beer and pretzel aspect. It's not as competitive as it was, and we have a smaller player group. So I think it's vital that Ghost Galaxy keeps that group. And let me know in the comments what you think, because there is a lot of talk right now, day one of this going up, of people's thoughts, and there's a lot of people frustrated that it's not going straight to retail and that they're going to crowdfunding, and they have concerns. And even myself, even though I said I'm going all in, I have a lot of concerns with it going crowdfunding, because I haven't seen a model like this before, and this hybrid model has me a little bit nervous because it's set up in a way that I think it could potentially fall flat and not work and burn more bridges with retailers. And retailers, my own local retailer, for example, has been talking about they have no idea what's going on for organized play yet. Organized play is in a juvenile state at the moment for like local groups. But like if you buying the product but you have no one to play with or organized play, it's a little bit of a tough sell. And here they are talking about a free deck at the end. But yeah, so that's my thing. If you go through the comments, like I said, you are able to leave a comment. Even and what's the beauty of Gamefound? before you even back it. So you can go through and check that out. But yeah, there's just quite a few concerns they have. I'll wrap this up with saying that going from comparing it to Winds of Exchange and the things, the lessons learned, they talk about like here's this is coming and like some of the lessons learned. They're saying it's going live and whatnot. I think they need to have more open communication with backers. I think the updates were not as frequent as what board gamers expect. Uh, Basically, updates should be happening in what like crowdfunding sites. Usually, it's like once a month. People will update. When I say people, um, the actual game designers will update saying, hey, here's where the status of is for shipping and whatnot. And so there was a long silence period. I know even for myself, there was product that was missing for Winds of Exchange. And I wrote into the contact us sheet, and it took over a month before they got back to me. And I said, hey, my product is missing. And this is coming from a person that has a lot of ties in with the community. And it was silence for over a month, which wasn't a good feeling. And there was quite a few other people that were saying, hey, we're missing product when they got their product delivered. And it's just not a good feeling to go that long. And when you fill in this form, you don't get any information that says that, hey, we received your notification and we'll get back to you. So the customer service aspect of the campaign and the contact us just could use some improvement. I recognize that they're a small team, and I do hope that changes because it was just a little bit of an oddity. And I understand that they were working with a lot. Don't get me wrong with that, but just that's something to think about. So do yourself a favor, go through the previous campaign, see how people were excited, go through the current one, and see what people are talking about. There's a lot of lessons learned, and hopefully it's budgeted at a point and the rewards are at a point that makes sense. But at the same time, my recommendation is do it within your own limits and consider backing and potentially having funds set aside so that you're still supporting your local game stores, because I'm of the biased view that the life and blood of most card games requires game stores to be run, or really good communities and really good fan clubs is a hard thing. So I think without these groups, it's going to be hard for Keyforge to grow out of the beer and pretzel kitchen sink type of game that for me, I can do another video on about that, but I strongly believe it is not a full-on competitive game like Lorcana, Magic, Pokemon, or any of these, or even Sorcery coming up. Any of these like big games that are going to have a large population. We don't need a large group, but it's a diminishing size right now because there's just been a lot of nicks that is getting people to walk away temporarily or walk away completely. Like I said, for me, I'll stay on with the game till it crashes. And these are all things that can be improved and fixed, and potentially the campaign could do much better than I expect. But I do think it's going to be challenging for them to hit the same mark of over $1 million that we saw on the Winds of Exchange because of losing a potentially good portion of international backers. Whether that represents only like 30% of backers, that's still a thing, and losing other backers because organized play isn't organized enough in my view. Prize support is not high enough in my view for actual attending and stuff like that. It's just a lot of revamping, but what that can you can talk with your wallet and leave comments like many people already are, so that the actual game designers can hear from you what you think. And don't get me wrong, even with all that constructive criticism, I'm still super excited for Grim Reminders. I'm still super excited to see what a new set can bring in the second set from Ghost Galaxy. And I am excited that I believe that Ghost Galaxy, unlike FFG, has shown that yeah, they'll make mistakes, but they're willing and they do care about the community and the game. And the big factor is that they're a small company, and this is one of their main games. I think they're working on some other small things. There was a thing with like Mindbug that you can check out, but Keyforge is their main game, so like they need it to be successful. So it's not even a small time thing. It's not like they have other side businesses. This is the main thing for Ghost Galaxy. So they have a high interest of this being a very successful thing. But where do you think Keyforge is? Are you excited about the campaign? What type of changes do you want, or are you happy with the status quo? Sound off in the comments and let me know. And let me know if there's anything that I miss. I look forward to chatting with everyone in the comments and try to keep it civil with it. Yeah, there's a lot of things on the go. I know I provided a lot of rambling myself, but hopefully it was in the constructive view. All right, that's all for now. I'll talk to you guys later.